my podcast people, and thank you for joining me for yet another episode of my favorite podcast. Today we are talking about how to create consistently when you crave spontaneity. And friends, I am stoked about this episode. If you're listening to this on the day that it drops, it is Thursday, September 14th. And before we jump in, we're going to switch it up and start off with a little review. Today's review is from Roseanne the Man. And let's see what this person had to say. The title, yes. Already here for it. The movement Maestro doles out rich and worthwhile advice. They tell you the ins and outs of how to reach specific goals, and I'm desperate for their approval. Do I wish Dr. Shante Kofil was my parent? Yes. And I wish she was everyone's parent too. Some podcasts I think, okay, I've been listening for 5 minutes and still don't have any takeaways. Not this one. Oh no. Takeaway galore. Empowering, motivational, realistic, hot dog. This makes me feel a little bit old, but I'm here for it. No, this is fucking awesome. It was the part that, do I wish Dr. Shante Kofil was my parent? I am old now, folks. 2 episodes talked about the fact that mortality should be our greatest motivating factor, right? Mortality is motivational. Yes, it is. And I am getting older. So I'm embracing this. I'm going to embrace this. And this is a fucking dope review. Like, all of the reviews, I read them. I read them when I put them on the into this outline. So I'm kind of like, we're reading it at the same time. And I'm like, oh, wow. But I'm grateful. So for all of you that have left results, in this case today, Roseanne the Man, thank you. Truly, truly appreciate it. If you haven't left a result, wow. If you haven't left a review and you want to, I know it takes a little bit more time. It's an extra step, but I truly, truly appreciate it. This is a unidirectional platform and it just makes things feel less lonely. So you can do that on Apple. No idea how to do that on Spotify. So don't even worry. If that's your thing, don't even worry. If you want to DM it to me, I've done that in the past, or people have done that in the past. I think it's really cool. You can DM me. But just either way, thank you for listening. Thank you for giving me your attention. So today we're talking about how to create consistently and maybe create consistency when you crave spontaneity. This episode is 100% inspired by my clients, and I am not surprised that my clients are asking me this thing or coming to me with this kind of problem, because I truly do believe, to quote my good friend Dr. Sarah Suds, we attract what we are, not what we want. And this is largely how I am and how I create. I post schedulers and post schedules, I should say, or post, the like matrices and things like that. And here's like a post outline. It never worked for me. Batching posts never really worked for me. I am a creator through and through, and when an idea hits, I typically have to see it through. I'm like, I gotta get this out of my head. I gotta write it down. I have whiteboards all over. I actually switched. I got a blackboard now. It's a glass, quote unquote, whiteboard, but it's black. But it's pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, it's not as functional, folks, as a white one, because you gotta use what are they called? Like chalk markers. So it's not as functional as the white one. I gave the white one to Lex. It just didn't fit in my office, actually. So I was like, you know what? I wanted the black one the first time through, but I didn't pull the trigger on it because wasn't sure if it was going to look good or if it's going to have like the glare. But I was like, we're going to do it this time. So I got it. I'm looking at it right now. But I have the whiteboards all over. I be using my notes on my phone a ton. When I have an idea, I got to get it out. And I'm the person that will stay up all night to complete that project. I totally get it. And so I'm not surprised that these are the type of clients that I get, and they crave that spontaneity as well. I think the difference here is that I am also hugely routine-based, and I don't have a zillion ideas. When I get an idea, I got to get it out, but I'm not the person that's like an ideator and just has a million. Well, what about? Which I think is actually very helpful for me. It's just like, here's the idea, here's the thing, and then it's done. I can eat the same thing every day. I can have the same routine and schedule every week, and actually, I want that. I crave that. I do not crave spontaneity. I desire freedom. That's different to me. And I desire options. And I will typically choose the same thing over and over again, but I still want the options and the freedom to be able to make that decision. Right? So I think that is the difference. And that is largely where I coach from when I'm looking to help these folks who are like, dude, I'm trying to get some consistency. I understand the value of having consistency as it relates to creating, but I got that spontaneity itch. I got you. Right? So the question comes from, or is inspired by my clients, and the answer, the solution, is also inspired by my clients. Namely, my girl Bonnie. She's Carrot Bowl Bonnie. I worked with her for like maybe 3 years. We just wrapped up. It's been an absolute blast working with her. But she is very big in the yoga world, and the type of yoga she does is called flow, and flows are her thing. However, the flows aren't willy-nilly. They do have structure. There is form there. There are parameters that exist that allow for the flow to occur and for things to link together. And those parameters, that is form. And so one of the things we've always said when Bonnie and I are talking, I continue to remind her, is that form allows for flow. She's one of the first people that said it. And I was like, yes. Oh, dropped something there. She's one of the first people that said it, or probably the first person that said it to me, because that's her thing. And I was like, yes, Bonnie, form allows for flow. And that is actually one of the biggest things that I worked on with her, was creating some of that form and holding her to that form so that she could flow. Because when we just get rid of all of that, we're like, I'm gonna create this thing and then this thing and then this thing, there's no form to it, you actually can't flow. Right? Things are very disjointed and your mind is in a million places. So when you're trying to figure out how to create consistently, when you crave spontaneity, the answer is to introduce some form, some level of structure. Key word there is some. I'm not going to lie, this is one of my favorite things to do as a coach. I love figuring out the balancing that needs to exist in order for the person to not feel caged in. And that's why earlier I strategically said that I want freedom and options. So I think that's also what people are leaning towards. They like spontaneity, but it's the freedom that they can create this at this time and they can create this at this time. So I like finding that balancing that needs to exist for the person to be able to create and to have some form, but to not feel caged in. Yes, some tough love is just needed where I got to constantly remind them, keep reminding them, form allows for flow, rein it in. But that's a very small part because I'm dealing with adults and that shit ain't going to change. So it's not just about trying to overpower them or muscle them. That's not going to work. There does need to be, balancing there and a give and a take there. These folks come to me for coaching, and this is important to note. They know that they want a different outcome, right? Because this will require change. If you're the person that always acts, from this spontaneity, you're very spontaneous. If you're looking for a different way of doing things, that requires you to change in some way, shape, or form. I'm not going to ask you to drastically change, but it will require some change. And the way that change actually happens is when the person themselves wants to change. So these people come to me and they're like, hey, I want a different outcome. This thing that I'm going after, this way that I've been doing things, it's not working. I know that something needs to change. Can you help me? Right? Most people, they're very self-aware and they know that a radical change ain't going to happen. It was really interesting thinking about a client that I recently started working with, and she was just like, I think I'm going to give you pushback on some of these. And I was like, I know you are. And I'm not going to take it that far where you're going to give me that much pushback. Because I know you watch that. I know you want to give me pushback. But that's what happens when I ask someone to go from A to Z. And we're not going to do that. We're going to go from A to B. And people can do that, these very, very small steps, these very, very sustainable steps. It's been my experience that I just need to show folks, and so maybe you internalize this as I'm saying it, I just need to show them their success isn't rooted in their perceived spontaneity. There's comfort in that spontaneity, but the success that they've had thus far is rooted in their ability to create something at all. Creating is fucking hard. And so when people can do this, I'm like, that's the magic. You're the magic. Yes, I get you like to do it spontaneously, but that's not the reason you succeeded. You typically succeeded in spite of that spontaneity or despite the spontaneity. It was the fact that you could create at all. So the action item here becomes figuring out one single thing. Y'all know I stay preaching about focus as a superpower. Quoting my girl, Dr. Erica Bonilla, you cannot ride two horses with one ass. You gotta pick one thing. All right? When you chase all the rabbits, you go home hungry. One thing. The action item is figuring out one thing that we can introduce consistency to, and then we can stack from there. I start off with whatever is easiest for them. So we're thinking about content creation, right? Because the title of this was how to create consistently when you crave spontaneity. So I'm going to ask them, what's the easiest thing for you to create? Are you a writer? You're a podcaster? You like to post? Whatever that thing is. That's the thing that the variable that we're going to look to tweak. I'm going to look to introduce consistency in terms of frequency, but I'm going to leave spontaneity there in terms of the topic, in terms of what they're writing about. And I can introduce a little bit more form and create some more cohesion by introducing content buckets and be like, all right, we're going to get you to post once a week on this day, or sometimes I don't even go that far because that may be too much. I need you to post once a week, and it just needs to be on something from one of these 5 topics, right? And we pull those 5 topics from whatever their pillars are for their business. They can create 1,000,000 times that week, right? They could post 1,000,000 times for all I fucking care. It doesn't matter. I just need to know that at least one of those posts is going to be dedicated to this specific area, right? One of these specific topics. So you see there's still a lot of flow in there. There's a lot of spontaneity that's in there. Oh, this idea came up. Cool. Do that. This idea over there came up. Amazing. Do that. I just need to know that one day a week, you will have a post that goes out that is from this group of topics. That's it. All right. Form allowing for flow. And I can do that for any type of creation, content creation. It could be for a podcast. It could be for an email. I'm only going to pick one thing at a time. So the first thing that we're going to work on is whatever's coming easiest. So if that's posting, cool, then it's going to be posting. And we're going to do that for a while before we look to add in another thing or before we look to manipulate any other variables and create more form. Because too much form makes someone feel caged in. And then it's not sustainable. We know this. I just did a tweet about, not a tweet. It was not a tweet. I did a thread about this the other day that basically the number one thing that I've seen that stops people from reaching their goals is that they bite off more than they can chew. They set unrealistic goals, unrealistic approaches to things. It's the person that's like, I want to get back into working out. So they start off with 2 a days. It's the person that's like, I want to eat better. So they get rid of everything that's not quote unquote clean in their diet. It's not sustainable. Right? You're shooting yourself in the foot there. Same for content creation. Yes. Okay. You want to introduce more consistency? Cool. We're going to do that in a very stepwise graded fashion and in a very sustainable fashion. So I'm going to introduce some form, but just a little bit. And then we'll show you how that allows for flow. And we're going to make sure that that flow is very much built into that so that you can still scratch that spontaneity itch. The big thing to understand, and I'm repeating myself here because it's that important. The big thing to understand is that in looking to make this change, right, where we're going from full spontaneity, like just create whenever I want, to creating a bit more consistently, this will require change, right? Creating change requires change. And thus, if it's going to be sustainable, if we're actually going to see it through, it has to be initiated by either you, the listener, if you're listening to this episode for yourself, or by the client, if you are listening to this as a coach. You got to identify why the change is desired. So I'm thinking about clients that have come to me and they're just like, I don't say they're sick of their own bullshit, but like they realize that what they've been doing is not going to lend itself to more success, that they are getting in their own way. Maybe they want something that's tangible. They want more money. They want more clients. They want more predictability in their business. They want less work. They want less stress, whatever it is. We have to identify that. And then that thing becomes the guiding light. It becomes the dangling carrot. Right? And we're using that to refer back, hey, if you want this outcome, this is what the input's going to have to be. And we're going to do it, again, from a graded stepwise approach. It's going to be sustainable, but it will require change. And you said you wanted it. You said you wanted this outcome. And if the person's like, nah, fuck it, I don't want any more, cool. That is also 100% fine. Right? So to answer the question, how do I create consistently when I crave spontaneity? Look to introduce form so that you have flow. Start with one item at a time. You introduce structure that is sustainable. And then in the future, you look to enhance that sustainability by building in ways to have spontaneity. And let me back that up. I've said in the future, because I'm also reading part of this I'm thinking as I'm doing this, I'm reading part of this from the from the outline, and that should say, I should say, look to further enhance the sustainability. Because yes, in the future, my brain was going into habit stacking. And so yes, in the future, we look to do more via habit stacking. But we look to further enhance the sustainability of this structure by building in ways to still have that sustainability. If you want help specifically doing this, again, I'm not ashamed to plug my services. I fucking love doing this, and I'm very, very good at it. Consider scheduling a Maestro meeting. We'll link that in the show notes so you can see what that's about. There's an hour-long business consulting or business coaching call. Yes, I offer more long-term commitments, but everyone starts off with a single Maestro meeting. If you're unsure if it's going to be a good fit, you can submit a custom inquiry. I did a whole episode before about why I don't offer discovery calls, but if you want to write in, submit your concern, I'm happy to read that and get back to you. I will still direct you towards a Maestro meeting. If I think we're being a good fit, I wouldn't direct you to anything else, but I'm happy to read your concerns about that. If you want to know if I can actually help you. If you're wondering if you're going to be a good fit, how I am right now in these episodes, if you can see me, you can hear me, that's how I'm going to be in the episode. That's how I'm going to be in the call. But if you do have questions about, like, can you help me? Go ahead, write in, and then me or someone from the team, aka Lex, will get back to you. All right. I'm looking at the time. I'm looking at the outline, and that is all that I got for you. As always, just so grateful for every single one of you. I'm stoked to be back recording. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this life. I'm grateful for the support. I'm grateful for this space. I am grateful for this life. I'm grateful for everything. So thank you for all that you do for me. And don't be a stranger. If you got a request, you got questions, comments, concerns, shoot me a DM. Shoot me a text, 310-737-2345. I would love to hear from you. Give me a topic to talk about. All right, gonna wrap it up here. As always, endlessly appreciative for every single one of you. Until next time, friends. Maestro out.